Dear learners, in this presentation, that is lecture 6, I am going to discuss about the time response analysis of second order system. The learning objectives of this presentation are to analyze the time response of second order linear time invariant systems and to investigate the time domain specifications. First, we will discuss the step response of a second order system. A type 1 second order system is represented by this block diagram. So the open loop transfer function is omega n square by s into s plus 2 zeta omega n. Since we have two poles, one at origin, another at minus 2 zeta omega n, it is called a second order system. So if we use that closed loop reduction rule of block diagram algebra, we will get the closed loop transfer function as C of s by R of s equal to omega n square by s square plus 2 zeta omega n s plus omega n square. For a step input R of s equal to 1 by s, so if we substitute R of s equal to 1 by s here and R of s we take this side, means C of s would become 1 by s into omega n square into s square plus 2 zeta omega n s plus omega n square. If we factorize this s square plus 2 zeta omega n s plus omega n square, that is the denominator of the transfer function. So roots of the denominator polynomial are called pole. We will get minus zeta omega n plus or minus j omega n into root of 1 minus zeta square. So this minus zeta omega n is the real part. Omega n into root of 1 minus zeta square is imaginary part, and this particular relation is applicable when zeta is less than 0, greater than 0, less than 1. And if we factorize, if we partial for fraction this C of s, we will get 1 by s minus s plus 2 zeta omega n by s square plus 2 zeta omega n s plus omega n square. That is the C of s expression if we do the partial fraction by that a by s plus bs plus c divided by s square plus 2 zeta omega n s plus omega n square, then LCM, taking common LCM, then maybe equating coefficients of or putting s is equal to 0, like that if we do in the conventional way, we will get the partial fraction residues, and finally we will get the C of s expression. And this s plus 2 zeta omega n is broken into s plus 2 zeta omega n plus zeta omega n. Therefore, minus s plus zeta omega n divided by this is one term. Another minus zeta omega n divided by the same denominator is another term. So why we are writing like this? Because we want to bring it to the standard form. So here this s square plus 2 zeta omega n s plus omega n square is expanded as s plus zeta omega n whole square plus omega d square. See, omega d is omega n into root of 1 minus zeta square. Omega d square means omega n square into 1 minus zeta square. So this omega d square is omega n square into root of 1 minus omega n square into 1 minus zeta square. And if we expand this s plus zeta omega n square, s square plus zeta square omega n square plus 2 zeta omega n s. So we have three terms, s square plus zeta square omega n square plus 2 zeta omega n s. So here we have omega n square minus zeta square omega n square. So that minus zeta square omega n square will cancel with this minus zeta square omega n square. Therefore, finally it will result in this. Therefore, there is nothing wrong in expressing this as this. And the purpose of writing this in this form is again to bring it to the standard form so that we can easily find out the inverse Laplace transformation. Right. So here we can find that if this s by s square plus omega square alone is there, the inverse Laplace transformation will be cos omega dt. But this s is replaced by s plus a, that is s plus zeta omega n. Therefore, this cos term should be multiplied by e power minus zeta omega nt. Of course, 1 by s inverse Laplace transformation is 1 because Laplace transformation of 1 is 1 by s. So here minus zeta omega n divided by this denominator, we are writing like this. Here I am multiplying both numerator and denominator by omega d. So here if this zeta omega n is not there, it is omega d by s square plus omega d square. So omega d by s square plus omega d square is sin omega dt when we do the inverse Laplace transformation. So the extra terms are zeta omega n and omega d, that is taken outside. But now we have zeta omega n term also. Therefore replacing s with s plus a means multiplying by e power minus at by first shifting principle. So e power minus zeta omega n t. So that is how we got c of t as highlighted here. Here omega d is nothing but omega n into root of 1 minus zeta square. So omega n cancel. Therefore it is simply zeta by root of 1 minus zeta square. So if we take LCM for these two terms, 1 minus e power minus zeta omega n t by root of 1 minus zeta square into sin of omega dt plus 5. That is, this omega n cancel. So root of 1 minus zeta square. So root of 1 minus zeta square I am taking outside of course. So here 1 root of 1 minus zeta square is extra, that will come. So here it is we have zeta sin omega dt. So if we see the damping ratio triangle, cos phi is zeta, sin phi is root of 1 minus zeta square. So cos phi is zeta, sin phi is root of 1 minus zeta square. So here if we take e power minus zeta omega t root of 1 minus zeta outside in this, sin of omega dt plus 5 means sin a cos b plus cos a sin b. Sin omega dt plus, that is sin omega dt into cos phi. So cos phi is zeta. So here we have the zeta term. Then plus cos omega dt sin phi. What is sin phi? Root of 1 minus zeta square. That root of 1 minus zeta square will be here with the cos omega dt. Why that root of 1 minus zeta square extra comes means that has been taken outside here. So that root of 1 minus zeta square and this root of 1 minus zeta square, they will cancel each other. So that root of 1 minus zeta square is sin phi. So sin phi cos omega dt. Here we have zeta. So zeta is cos phi sin omega dt. Other terms we have taken outside. So 1 minus e to the power minus zeta omega dt by root of 1 minus zeta square sin of omega dt plus phi. So if we take tan phi, root of 1 minus zeta square by zeta, opposite by adjacent side. Therefore phi is tan inverse of root of 1 minus zeta square by zeta. That is what highlighted here. So here omega d equal to omega n root of 1 minus zeta square is called damped frequency of oscillations, because we have omega n as undamped frequency of oscillations, undamped natural frequency of oscillations, that is multiplied by a term, a damping term. This zeta is called a damping ratio. So it is called damped frequency of oscillation. So as the damping ratio is increased, this omega d will accordingly it will decrease. So it will decrease. Now based on this value of zeta, we have different systems. When zeta is 0, it is called undamped system. When zeta is greater than 0, less than 1, it is underdamped system. When zeta equal to 1, it is called critically damped system. When zeta greater than 1, overdamped system. So when we will first see the underdamped system. So whatever we have derived here, C of t expression, this C of t expression and this phi, this is nothing but your underdamped system response, because for underdamped system response only this is applicable. So what is clear from this is, we have e power minus zeta omega in t term. When time increases, this e power minus zeta omega in t exponentially decays. Therefore, it is an exponential decay term multiplied by sine. Sine is always positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative, multiplied by an exponential decay. So, what will happen is, for example, when we take a damping ratio 0.4, so the response, it will be like this, then the response will be like this, then the response will be like this, and finally it will become 1. So the oscillations progressively decrease with respect to time, because if normal sine term means it will be simply going like this, like an undamped system. But this is multiplied by e power minus zeta omega t, which decreases with respect to time. We have already seen this type of term in the first order system, e power minus t by t. So in the same way, this will provide an exponential decay but multiplied by sine term. Here one more thing that we have to keep in mind, that is minus zeta omega n is real part of the poles. Omega n into root of 1 minus zeta square, that is omega t, is nothing but imaginary part. Always imaginary part is this term, sine term, and real part is exponential decay term. Any transfer function, we have complex poles, when we find the response, the exponential decay will be contributed by the real part, whereas the oscillatory part, sine or cosine, will be decided by the imaginary part. So that is why when the damping ratio is increased, the oscillations, they progressively decrease with respect to the time. When damping ratio equal to 1, this relation we cannot straight away use, because 1 minus 1 0, infinity it will be there. So you have to develop from the first principle. But when damping ratio equal to 1, this imaginary part will not be there. When imaginary part will not be there, sine cos will not be there. So we will have only real parts. So there won't be oscillations. It will be like this. Anyway, we are going to see that in the next slide. When the damping ratio equal to 0, it is continuously oscillated. This also we are going to see in the next slide. See, when the damping ratio is 0, it becomes C of t is 1 minus e to the power of minus zeta omega in t into root of 1 minus zeta square into sine of omega dt plus phi. So this phi will become tan inverse of root of 1 minus zeta square by zeta. So tan inverse of infinity is pi by 2. So 1 minus, so the e power minus zeta omega dt by root of 1 minus zeta square is simply 1 into sine of omega dt plus pi by 2. So sine of omega dt plus pi by dt is cos omega dt. So 1 minus cos omega dt. That is why in the previous slide, undamped system response was continuously oscillated, because there is no real part. Minus zeta omega n is 0. Only there is imaginary part. Whenever we have only imaginary part, the system response is continuously oscillated. Let us see when damping ratio equal to 1, critically damped. When it is critically damped, the C of S expression s square plus 2 zeta omega minus zeta become equal to 1. Therefore, we cannot use the previous relation which we have seen for under damp. We have to again develop the first principles. This s square plus 2 omega n plus omega n square can be written in the form of a plus b whole square formula. S plus omega n whole square is this. Therefore, this, when we take the partial fraction, we will get 1 by s minus 1 by s plus omega n minus omega n by s plus omega n whole square. That is, we can write this as a by s plus b by s plus omega n plus c by s plus omega n whole square. So after simplification, we will get this. So if we take inverse Laplace transformation, 1 by s is 1, 1 by s plus omega n is e power minus omega n t. This omega n by s plus omega n whole square is, so it is omega n into t into e power minus omega n t, because Laplace transformation of t is 1 by s square, but we have s plus omega n whole square in the denominator. So replacing s with s plus a means we have to multiply in time domain with e power minus at. Therefore e power minus omega nt. So C of t is this relation. When the damping ratio is 1, therefore the response is non-oscillatory, but it reaches 1 unity only at steady state. So when t equal to infinity, this becomes 0. Therefore 0 multiplied by this is 0. So 1 minus 0, 1. However, the response is very, very slow, as we have shown in the previous presentation, previous slide. When the damping ratio is greater than 1, there again the response is non-oscillatory, because we have already seen the poles, complex poles, minus zeta omega n plus or minus j omega n root of 1 minus zeta square. That plus or minus j omega n root of square root of 1 minus zeta square would become minus zeta omega n plus or minus omega n into root of zeta square minus 1. Therefore, one root will be minus zeta omega n plus omega n root of 1 minus zeta square minus 1. Another is minus zeta omega n minus omega n root of 1 minus root of zeta square minus 1. So we can find out the time response for that also in the same way. We have to derive here, but it will be still slower. The response is sluggish. So these overtime systems do not have any practical significance. So except for the applications where we cannot tolerate the even small overshoot, like for robotic arm manipulator, where we cannot even tolerate small change. For example, robot has to pick and place a particular object, pick the object from a particular place and place it in some other place, means exactly it has to happen. No oscillation should be there. Such applications only we can think of overtime systems. So if we try to plot the locus of these poles, complex poles, we can see in the previous slide minus zeta omega n plus or minus j omega n root of minus zeta square. Zeta equal to 0 means pole is plus j omega n minus j omega n. So exactly the poles are imaginary, they are on the imaginary axis. When the poles are, when the damping ratio is greater than 0 and less than 1, the poles are complex conjugate of each other, but in the with a negative real part like this. So one pole travel like this, another pole travel like this, but they are complex conjugates of each other. So this is the radius omega n. When the damping ratio is exactly equal to 1, that imaginary part root of 1 minus zeta square becomes 0. Therefore, we will have minus zeta omega n minus zeta omega n. This minus omega n minus omega n. That is at this place. Same radius, but on the negative real axis. That means duplicate poles. When the damping ratio is increased further, one pole, that is minus omega n plus root of zeta square minus omega n, that is one pole, another one with minus n. So one pole goes like this, another pole goes like this. So one pole travel towards origin, another pole travel towards negative real axis. So since it has got only real part like critically damped, there won't be any oscillations, but the response is still slower because of this term. Anyway, that we can understand little bit later. So this we have already seen, this is a damped sinusoid for underdamped system. So it has got overshoots and undershoots. When the damping ratio is increased, anyway, this we can understand even in the next slide. So time domain specifications. So we will see the impact of the damping ratio, the impact of omega n based on the time domain specifications. Any control system, if a designer wants to design, the first thing is how fast the system moves to follow the input. So if we give an input to the control system, will it respond faster to the input? Then what will be the oscillations? How much time does it take practically to reach the final value? What is the accuracy? For example, we are riding a car. So if we are giving an acceleration, how fast the car moves to follow the input, that is whatever input that we give with our accelerator pedal. Does the speed settle down at a particular value or it oscillating? How much time the vehicle takes to reach the final speed? Is it exactly running at the speed at which we want or some other speed? So what is the accuracy? So these four things are very, very important. So based on these four, if we want to design the control system, then we should know the time domain specifications. So we can understand these time domain specifications and whatever I have said in the previous slide, that is for the underdamped system, with the help of the next slide. See, this is an underdamped system response curve. This is an underdamped system response curve. So this underdamped system response curve, the oscillations progressively decrease. So here this much oscillations decrease, still decreases. So whatever oscillations that are available above 1, first to overshoot. Oscillations below 1, we say first undershoot, then second overshoot, second undershoot, third overshoot, third undershoot, and so on. So for the purpose of understanding, we have put a tolerance band because this is going to be useful for defining one time domain specifications. So the first time domain specification is delay time. This is TD, delay time. Delay time is the time taken by the system response to rise from 0 to 50%, that is 0.5 of this final value in the first attempt. So whatever time that it takes in the first attempt to rise from 0 to 50% is delay time. Rise time. What is the time taken by the system response to rise from 0 to 100% of final value in the first attempt? This is called rise time, because this one it reaches thereafter also 1. Here and all. But first attempt, what is the time taken? That is called the rise time. In the case of overdamped system, we call it time taken by system response to rise from 10 to 90%. Similarly, for critically damped, 5 to 95% of final value. 5 to 95% of final value in the first attempt. Why they have defined in a different way? Because their final value it will reach only once in critically damped and overdamped, because no oscillation. That is why the definition slightly differs. Next comes peak time, TP. So peak time is time taken by the system response to reach the maximum value. So this is the maximum value of the response, E of t, TP. So whatever time that the system takes is called the peak time, that is peak value of the response. Then MP, overshoot, peak overshoot. Peak overshoot is the difference between the peak value of the response and the steady state value 1 expressed as a ratio to the steady state value, that is C of Tp minus C of infinity, that is 1 divided by C of infinity, that is 1 into 100, that is your peak overshoot in percentage. Then settling time, final fifth time domain specification. It is the time taken by the system response to reach and stay within a specified tolerance band of the final value. See here, it goes above the tolerance band, here below tolerance, above tolerance, below tolerance. After this, next to overshoot, third overshoot, it comes well within the tolerance band. Therefore, in this time, it has settled down. Thereafter, it doesn't go beyond the band. It comes within the band. Therefore, this time is the settling time. So that is why these two are tolerance band. Normally 5% tolerance band or 2% tolerance band is used. Here for the understanding of the learners, I have taken 5% tolerance band. So time taken by the system response to reach and stay within the space. So here only it stays. Here it reaches. Many places it reaches the tolerance band. But here only it stays within the tolerance band. Therefore, this time is the settling time. Finally, the steady state error. Steady state error is the difference between the steady state output and the input expressed as a ratio to the steady state output. That is the steady state error. Let us derive these time domain specifications. First, let us derive the rise time. Rise time means time taken by the system response to reach 100%, that is 1, the first term. Therefore, C of t should be equated to 1 and that time is rise time. So, this C of t expression is equated to 1. That is 1 minus e power minus zeta omega and root of 1 minus zeta square sin of omega t plus phi is equated to 1. So, this 1, if it is brought there, 1 minus 1, 0. Therefore, this cannot be 0 because if this has to be 0, can happen only at t r equal to infinity. We are finding expression for t r, therefore this term cannot be 0. Therefore, only possibility is this term being 0. Sin of omega dt plus omega dt plus phi is 0. Sin of something can be 0 provided that something is equal to n pi. Since we are taking for the first time omega dt r plus phi is equal to pi, we take n is equal to 1. So this omega dt r plus phi is equal to pi. Therefore, tr is pi minus phi by omega d. So pi minus phi, we know tan inverse of root of 1 minus zeta square by zeta. Omega d damped natural frequency of oscillation is omega and root of 1 minus zeta square. So if we increase the damping ratio, rise time increases. That is what we have shown in the underdamped system response. Damping ratio equal to 0.2. So it was actually damping ratio equal to 0.2. It is like this is the rise time. Damping ratio 0.4, this is the rise time. Damping ratio 0. Therefore, when the damping ratio is increased, rise time is increased. That means the speed of the response decreases when we increase the damping ratio. So, rise time increases. Next, peak time. Peak time means the time taken by the system response to reach the peak value of the response. So, here we can find the peak value of any function only when we differentiate that function with respect to the variable and equal to 0. So, C of t expression I have to differentiate with respect to t because t is the variable equal to 0. This is the C of t expression I am differentiating. So, I have to use UV rule. What is UV rule? V du plus u dv. So, here when I differentiate, 1 on differentiation is 0. So, this I have to use UV rule. So, minus e power minus zeta omega by root of minus zeta square when we differentiate. So, we will get e power minus zeta omega n t into minus zeta omega n minus of minus plus. Already root of minus zeta square. So, sin term we are writing here. Omega d is expanded as omega n root of minus zeta square. Phi is expanded as this tan inverse term. That's all. Then e power minus zeta omega n t root of minus zeta square taken as it is. Sin term is differentiated. So, sin of something when we differentiate, cos of something, there is cos of omega dt plus phi. Then function of function, when we differentiate this, we will get this. So, here this e power minus zeta omega n t by root of 1 minus zeta square into omega n can be taken as common term to both these. That is this as well as this. If we take like that, this zeta will come here, then multiplied by sine, then this root of 1 minus zeta square will come here, then cos of something like this. This zeta is nothing but when we do the damping ratio triangle, zeta is cos phi, root of 1 minus zeta square is sin phi. So that is why zeta is written as cos phi, root of 1 minus zeta square is sin phi. So cos phi into sine of something minus sin phi into sine of something. So sin A cos B minus cos A sin B. So sine of A minus B. So sine of A, that is omega in root of 1 minus zeta square t plus this phi minus here on phi. So phi minus phi they will cancel. So omega in root of 1 minus zeta square t. So sine of something equal to 0 means that something can be anything. So I am taking that as for the first time means I am taking n for rise time. Same way omega in root of 1 minus zeta square t, when you take pi, n pi equal to pi, n equal to 1, tp is this. So the only difference between this expression and rise time is here pi by omega in root of 1 minus zeta square, here 1 minus phi is there the numerator, that's all. Because of that, rise time is less than the peak time. So peak time also increases with respect to damping ratio. So next we have to find the peak overshoot, that is the term fourth time domain specification. So overshoot is C of Tp minus C of infinity by C of infinity to 100%. So C of t expression we know, 1 minus this, that is written here, 1 minus e power minus zeta omega d 1 minus zeta square. Then in this t expression we replace with Tp, that is what we have determined now. Sine of, so this sine is written here also, omega dt, omega in root of 1 minus zeta square, that is this, into t. Instead of t we have to write this peak time. So here plus phi is there, phi is also there. So see, this entire thing is C of Tp minus 1. So here we can cancel this root of 1 minus zeta square with this, omega n with this. Therefore this totality will be sine of pi plus phi. That is what written as sine of pi plus phi. So here again this root of 1 minus zeta square is there, omega n is there. Omega n they will cancel each other. So this will become e power minus zeta by root of 1 minus zeta square by root of 1 minus zeta square. So sine of pi plus phi. So sine of pi plus phi means sine of 180 plus phi. So sine 180 cos phi plus cos 180 sin phi. Sine of a plus b formula. Sine 180 is 0. Therefore first term will not be there. So plus cos 180 sin phi. So cos 180 is minus 1 sin phi. So minus sin phi, right? So minus of minus is plus sin phi. What is sin phi? Root of 1 minus zeta square. So already there is root of 1 minus zeta square. That will cancel with this root of 1 minus zeta square. Minus of minus plus. Therefore 1 plus e power minus zeta by root of 1 minus zeta square. Minus 1. So 1 minus 1 they cancel each other. So 100 into this, that is what written clearly, 100 into e to the power minus zeta by root of 1 minus zeta square. So if we substitute damping ratio as 0 here, e power minus 0 is 1, so 100% overshoot. That means it is undamped system. So as the damping ratio is increased, this will become more and more exponential decay. Therefore 100 e power minus zeta by decreases with respect to zeta. When zeta equal to 1, this is 0, this is minus pi, so that by 0 is e power minus infinity, so 0. That means there is no overshoot when the damping ratio is equal to 1. That is quite obvious. Settling time. When the damping ratio is increased, the settling time decreases naturally. Because when the oscillations are decreased because of the increase in damping ratio, settling time decreases. That means system will settle down fast. However, there are certain discontinuities when the damping ratio attains certain values. So let us discuss these 2 points with the help of the next diagram. Before that, how to determine the expression for settling time approximately. See, we have 5% tolerance. We have 1 minus e power minus zeta omega n t by root of 1 minus zeta square into sine of omega n omega dt plus phi. So there we can have 1 plus e power minus zeta omega n t by root of 1 minus zeta square to 1.05 from that expression. That is that sinusoidal exponential decay response. If we join all the peaks of sinusoidal, we will get an exponential decay. That one we can write like this. And if we simplify this, we can write like this. There is one, it is brought to this side is 0.05. This when it is brought to the other side and taking natural logarithm, we can finally approximate like this. Therefore, settling time is 3 by zeta omega n. So if we simplify all this, you will get this. Similarly, for 2% tolerance band, the upper limit is 1.0. The same two expressions instead of 1.05 and 1.02, if you want to use 0.95, this plus should be minus. Similarly, 0.98 means this plus should be minus. So if we simplify, we will get this expression. So here, what we have to understand is, anyway, when the damping ratio is increased, for example, 5% tolerance band, when it goes from one damping ratio to another damping ratio, there will be a discontinuity at some values. That is what I have said here. Thereafter, when the damping ratio is increased, it will decrease. Then again, there is a sudden decrease. When it comes to the first overshoot, when its a system starts to settle down in the first overshoot itself, thereafter, if you try to increase the damping ratio, it will be already within the band. Therefore, when the damping ratio is increased, it is almost dictated by rise time. So it will increase. Settling time will increase. Similarly, for 2% tolerance band also like this. Here the thing is, the curve is slightly shifted to the right. Why? Because less tolerance means it takes more time for the system to settle. That is why here 3 by zeta omega n, here we get 4 by zeta omega. Anyway, we will understand these 2 points with the next slide. See, this is the response for a particular damping ratio. This is the response for a particular damping ratio. This is the green colored one. Here what happens is, first overshoot doesn't settle down, undershoot, second overshoot, undershoot, then third overshoot. So here third overshoot, it comes well within that 1.05. That means here it has settled down. That means the green colored response has settled down here. That is, this is the settling time. Suppose I slightly increase the damping ratio and I get the response like this. So first, of course, the rise time is more. Here the rise time is less. Here the rise time is more. But the oscillations are less. So here what happens is, first undershoot, second overshoot. The second undershoot itself, it has come within the band. That means second overshoot it has settled down. So the first green colored one, second undershoot it has settled down. Here second overshoot itself it has settled down. Slight increase in the damping ratio has shifted the settling time from here to here. That is why I said sudden jump. That is why for certain values of damping ratio, there are sudden discontinuities. So the system settling jumps down from an overshoot to previous undershoot, or from undershoot to overshoot. So in this particular case, it has gone from undershoot to overshoot. So thereafter, if we increase the damping ratio, it will decrease. Again, when this system response settles down here like this, probably somewhere here will be the settling time. Like this, settling time decreases. Then when the response becomes like this, it becomes just here means it is dictated by the rise time. Here it is okay, first overshoot. If you still increase, it will be like this. Therefore, rise time dictates the settling time. Therefore, already rise time dictates the speed of the response. Therefore, system settling becomes very, very slow. So, this point we should keep it in mind. Therefore, what is the ideal choice of damping ratio? When the damping ratio is increased, rise time increases. That is, speed of the response increases. Speed of the response decreases. So time more means speed less. Overshoot decreases. This we have seen when the damping ratio is increased, overshoot exponentially decays. Settling time decreases. However, increase in rise time makes the response slower. When we increase the rise time, that means when we increase the damping ratio, response becomes slower, but settling is faster with less oscillations. Decrease in rise time, that means when the damping ratio is small, TR is small, therefore response is fast, but there are more oscillations, slower settling. Therefore, we have to have a compromise between speed and settling. We should have a compromise. When the damping ratio is between 0.4 and 0.7, see, actually in the settling time expression, when we derive the 0.68, this actually turns like this. That means it has come under the influence of first overshoot, then it is coming well within the band. Here 2%, 0.76. So somewhere around 0.7, after 0.7, if we try to increase the damping ratio, so what happens is settling time actually increases because it is coming under the influence of the rise time. Therefore, beyond 0.7, there is no point in going for damping ratio. However, when the damping ratio is less than 0.4, even though rise time is less, oscillations are more. More oscillations, settling also less. So we have to compromise between the speed, rise time and the settling time. So that is why 0.4 and 0.7. 0.4 we will get somewhere around I think 20-25% we will get overshoot, peak overshoot. And this is only 2% overshoot. 0.7 it is, I think, it is somewhere around 4% or something like that. So 3 to 4% to 25% overshoot, that's all. So this is what we can understand from the time response of second order system. Only underdamped systems are useful. Overdamped and critical systems or critical damped systems are slower. So in underdamped system we have to go for damping ratio between this. If we have to have a faster response and faster settling with less oscillations. If we go for higher order systems, because most of the systems are higher order in nature in real time. Therefore, how to find out the time response? So for that we have taken one example wherein we have the transfer function given by this expression. So we can find that it has got a pole at -6 and it has got pole at -1 plus -j, -1 minus j. So 1 plus j means -1 minus j. 1 minus j means -1 plus j, the pole. And the 0 at -2. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 0 and 3 poles. So the dynamic behavior and stability, location of dominant poles. So dominant poles they decide. See here, these two poles are dominant poles. They only decide the time response. Why this -1 plus j and -1 minus j we say dominant poles? Because if we take impulse response, C of s is simply this divided by this. So after doing partial fraction, probably some a1 by s plus 6, a2 by s plus 1 plus j, a3 by s plus 1 minus j. So s plus 6 on inverse Laplace transformation, e power -60. So here 1 plus j, 1 minus j, of course we have sine term, cos term. Other than that, e power minus t only we will get because of s plus 1. Here e power -60. Therefore, e power -60 decays faster than e power -t. So that is what written here. Impulse contribution due to response contribution to s power -6 is faster compared to the other two poles. Since it is decaying faster, dominant poles, the contribution is slower. That means that only prevents the response to settle down to the final value. That not preventing means not completely preventing. It is not allowing the response to settle down faster. So that is why they are called dominant modes. They are dominating the system response. So system response of the third order system resembles that of a second order system, we can say, because the poles are only the dominant poles. So only these dominant poles, they are going to decide the system response. So therefore we can even equivalently write that this third order system is approximately a second order system, but the poles of the second order system are the dominant poles of the third order system. That means this effect we are nullifying. That is the meaning. Let us understand how to do problems based on this. So we are given one differential equation, mathematical model. We are asked to find out the undamped natural frequency, damping ratio, damped natural frequency, time for peak overshoot and settling time. So if we take the Laplace transformation of this, we will get this. So we can find the transfer function. This is of the standard form, omega n square by s square plus 2 zeta omega n plus omega n square. So if we compare the like terms, omega n square is 8, 2 zeta omega n is 4. That is what written here. So from this we can find out omega n and zeta. And zeta is 0.7072. So damped natural frequency we have to substitute in this expression formula, second order system formula. So we will get 2 radian per second. So time for peak overshoot is pi by omega d or pi by omega in root of omega zeta square. Just now we have seen omega d. Substitute, we will get 1.57. Here we have to take care that pi is not 180 degree, it is 22 by 7 or 3.1414 radian per second. That is very, very important. Sorry, not radian per second, radians, not in degrees. So settling time for 2% tolerance, but normally we take. So 4 by zeta omega n. So this zeta and this omega n we substitute, you get this settling time. That's all. So this is a very, very simple problem. Problem number 2. So a mechanical system is given. The mass value, F value, K value they are given. Is assume that a force F of t, 100 Newton force, not unit step, 100 Newton force is applied at t equal to 0. Initial conditions are 0, they are given. So we are asked to find out damping factor, damped natural frequency, step response as a function of time. So we know that for a mass spring dashpot system of this, F of t is given by this relation. Only thing is y is replacing the dx, md square x by dt square plus f dx by dt plus kx. I think instead of capital B, small f is used here. That's all. Small f of t, they have given capital F of t, x, y. So if we take Laplace transformation, we will get this after taking the initial conditions at 0. They are given in the problem. So y of s by f of s is this. So to bring it to the standard form, we divide both numerator and denominator by m. We will get this form. So this is of the form, that is this denominator is the form s square plus 2 zeta omega n plus omega n square. So this is your 2 zeta omega n, this is your omega n square. So omega n square is k by m. K is, they have given k as 10,000. M is given as 100, substituted to get omega n square. So omega n square root of this is 10 radian per second. So 2 zeta omega n is equal to f by m. So f and m, when you substitute, we will get f by m. So omega n we have just determined, substitute that to get damping ratio 0.5. So damping factor is zeta omega n, that is e power minus zeta omega n t. Coefficient of small t is the zeta omega n damping factor, that is 5. So damped natural frequency is the formula we have to substitute. We will get 8.6 radian per second. Unit step response, this is the formula for unit step response if the closed loop transfer function is of the form. So C of s replaced by y of s, and 1 by m is 1 by 100, 0.01. So s square plus 10s plus 100. So just substitute this F by m and K by m. We have already done here. Here R of S is not 1 by S, it is 100 Newton. So 100 by S. So 100 by S. So 100 by S into S square plus 10S into 0.01. So this 100 and 100 omega n square form. Therefore omega n square by S into S square plus 2 zeta omega n S plus omega n. So one S is there because R of S is present. So extra term is 0.01. So let us use the same C of t expression but multiply by 0.01. That is why 0.01 minus 0.01. That's all. So substitute zeta omega n. Here again substitute. If you want, we can simplify this. That's all. Problem 3. So open loop transfer function is given. We are asked to find out the open loop gain so that the system will have damping ratio of 0.5. For that value of K, determine settling time, peak overshoot, time to peak overshoot. So we can find out the closed loop transfer function from this using the closed loop transfer function formula G of S by 1 plus G of S. So we will get this expression. This is your omega n square, 2 zeta omega n. This is omega n square highlighted. So 2 zeta omega n is 10, omega n square is K. So K equal to omega n square, 2 zeta omega n 10. Since they have given zeta, substitute zeta, find out omega n. Therefore K is omega n square 100. So settling time for 2% tolerance band 4 by zeta omega n. Substitute the zeta and omega n value that we have determined to get 0.8 seconds. So peak overshoot, we know 100 into e power minus zeta by root of minus zeta square. Substitute zeta as 0.5 and if you multiply by 100, 16.3%. Time to peak overshoot is pi by omega n root of minus zeta square. Substitute the values, we will get peak time. Problem number 4. The open loop transfer function is given where K is the amplifier gain, T is some time constant. By what factor should the amplifier gain, that is K, should be reduced? So the peak overshoot of the unit step response system is reduced from 75% to 25%. That is, MP has to be reduced from 75 to 25. By what factor we have to reduce this K? So first we will find the closed loop transfer function from G of S and bring it to the standard form. So here S square T, coefficient of S square should be 1. So divide both numerator and denominator by T. So this expression. So now omega n square is this K by T. 2 zeta omega n is this 1 by T. Now we want peak overshoot 25% from 75%. So peak overshoot expression we equate to 25%, that is 0.25. That zeta we call it zeta 1. So we simplify this by taking natural logarithm. Then zeta 1 as 0.4037. That is at this damping ratio we have to operate. Previously peak overshoot was 75%. So peak overshoot expression was equated to 0.75. That damping ratio, initial damping ratio, we have taken zeta 2. So if we take natural logarithm and simplify, we will get zeta 2 as this. Now, what is damping ratio? So damping ratio is nothing but 2 zeta omega n divided by 2 into root of omega n square, because this is 2 zeta omega n, this is omega n square. So if we divide 2 zeta omega n by omega n square, we will get 2 zeta by omega n, but we want zeta. Right? So if we divide by square root of omega n square, so this omega n, they will cancel, 2 will cancel, leaving zeta. So what is 2 zeta omega n? This is 1 by T divided by 2 into, what is root of omega n square? K by T is the root of K by T. So if we simplify this, we will get this relation. So this damping ratio in terms of K and T. let us take one damping ratio as zeta 1 corresponding to K1, another damping ratio zeta 2 corresponding to K2. I am not making any change in time constant because time constant they have not asked us to change, only amplifier gain is changed. So since we have square root, let us square both zeta 1 zeta 2 expression. Square root will go. So 1 by 2 1 by k1t we will get 1 by 4. Here 1 by 4 1 by k2t. So when we divide one by the other after squaring, 1 by 4 1 by 4 will cancel. So we will get k2 by k1. So k2 by k1. We know what is zeta 1, what is zeta 2. So if we square, we will get 0.051. That means K2 is 0.051 times K1. That means K1 is multiplied by 0.051. What is 0.05? If you see 1 by 20. That means K2 is K1 into 1 by 20. That means amplifier gain is reduced. K1 is reduced 20 times to get 25% overshoot from 75% overshoot. In problem 5, last problem, the control system shown in figure, find the values of K and Kt so that the damping ratio of the system is 0.6, settling time is 0.1 second. So they have given the system. So this is an inner loop. This is your G of s, this is H of s. So we use the closed loop transfer function formula, G of s by 1 plus G of s H of s. So if we simplify, we will get this relation. Now this and this, they are in cascade. So this is totally G of s. H of s is 1. So we can use again the closed loop transfer function relation and simplify. We will get this Y of s by R of s after doing the mathematical manipulation. So here S square coefficient is 0.2. So I am dividing both numerator and denominator by 0.2 to make coefficient of S square 1. So 5 by 0.2, 25. So 25k. So here 500 kt plus 5. Here 25k. So this 25k is omega n square. 500 kt plus 5 is 2 zeta omega. That is what it is here. 2 zeta omega n is this. Omega n square is 25k. They have given zeta as 0.6. That 0.6 we are substituting. So 500 kt plus 5, 500 kt plus 5. So 2 into 0.6 into. So settling time of the unit step response is 0.1 second they have given. What is settling time? 4 by zeta omega n is 0.1. We know zeta as 0.6. So 4 by 0.6 omega n is 0.1. From this omega n we can find out. This omega n, if we substitute here and simplify, we will get kt. Then what is omega n square is 25k, omega n square. So 66.75 square. So if we simplify this, we will get value of k. Actually, we are proceeding this after finding this given condition. So after this, we should have written this. Anyway, it's not a problem.